Hey guys, this is Keith Baker from Dusty Attic Studio, and today I am going to do another quick tip of Studio One V3. I had some questions about the difference between grouping tracks, buses, and VCA faders. So I'm going to use this song that I've been working on here, just so you can hear what song I'm working on. I'll go ahead and play this.
I'm off again, going through this world, often traveling, and I done seen some things.
Okay, that's enough of that. This is a song by Fredy V called Not Alone. Anyway, let's get to it. We're going to talk about grouping tracks, buses, and VCAs. What's the difference and how they work. Let's start with grouping tracks. First off, I'm just going to use my drums here. Go ahead and solo that, and you can see I got a VCA and I got a bus, and either one of those I hit solo and it solos everything that's routed to these tracks, or vice versa. Anyway, let's start with the overheads here. As you can see, I select a track like normal, and they can be moved independently. My desk is kind of a clutter here, and this was spur of the moment, so it's unrehearsed, unscripted, so if I fumble through this, I apologize. But anyway, as you can see, you can move all these things separately. Now, you can select a track. I'm using Windows 10, so I'm going to hit Control and then select another track, and of course they will move together then. Or you can right click while they're both selected, or however many tracks that you want, right click and hit Group Selected Tracks. Now what that does is, just like it says, it groups them, then they work in tandem. Now, something else that's cool, like this overhead was recorded really well, one left, one right, and they were recorded really exactly at the same level, so whatever engineer did this did it right. Let me ungroup this again, because you can right click it and then dissolve the group, and then they go back to being independent. Now, had this engineer had, let's say, the left overhead mic louder, the preamp level set louder, and to get them balanced, you have to have it more like this. And then when it's playing, the levels will be the same. But you know, right now, you're going to hear that they're not. Louder on the left side, it's quite obvious. But if you have to have them like this, to have the levels exactly the same, that happens from time to time. Now, if you say that having them set that way has got the levels balanced the way you want, and you can hit Control and select it, and that way they're both selected again. Then go ahead and add, group the selected tracks, and now once again they are grouped. Now, here's what's different about this. Now that they're grouped, you're going to notice when you move one, they're going to move different, not exactly the same. You'll watch, you'll see it. It's very clear. See how the one on the left shot up faster, and then when you go the other way, When it goes down, they get closer. Now, the reason they do this, and this is a cool feature. As a matter of fact, I was quite certain that the earlier versions did not do this. But what happens is, I'm going to use 0 for instance here. You'll see from like 0 to +6 or -6. I'll go ahead and go down 0 to -6 dB, and then down to 12, and you see 24. They start getting closer together. What it is that when you have your faders closer to 0, it moves in smaller increments. It means you can get more detail. So when you have your faders staggered like this to make them balanced, and then you move them together, they're going to react on where this one's down, where it doesn't have as much detail in this, for lack of better words. But that way it keeps the actual audio. It makes these faders move relevant to the audio, to the output, how loud it is. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to Control-Z, go back and get everything back where they were. So that's how the groups work. And that's really cool to do, if you just have a couple of tracks. I say if it helps you with your workflow, whatever's comfortable for you and makes it so you can go through faster, then do it. But I would not group, let's say, the whole drum track, and I'll get to that in just a second. That's why we will go to a VCA fader. So let me play this and make sure my levels are back right.
You're on the mind, for you I will provide.
Yep, okay, that's good. So let me right-click these and dissolve this group. VCA faders. Okay, let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and select, because I want to group all my drums. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to select all my drums. Now let me get this browser out of the way and give me some more room. So all my drums are selected, and then you would right-click on any of the tracks and then add VCA for selected channels. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it, so let's just assume I press that, and then we go back, and then I named it Drum VCA. Okay, so now what this VCA does is it will move all the faders that's on this VCA relevant to each other, kind of like how I explained how it was between 0 and 6 and 12. So they're going to move at different rates. So they're going to be moving relevant to each other, and I'll show you that real quick. See how they get closer down to the bottom, or if you go up higher, they spread out. Put that back to 0. Now, here's what's cool about VCAs that you can't do when you have them grouped. Let's say you have everything, you thought you had everything the way you wanted it. You got everything to your VCA, so you can move them to mix them into the song, the rest of the song. But you can still go in and make changes to the individual faders without affecting any of the other ones. Here, I'll just show, like for instance, I want the kick drum to be a little louder, so I can still do that without affecting these, but it's still attached to routed to the VCA. Let me put all this back. So that's why I feel VCAs are your better bet for all the drums, or if you get, some songs got like 10 guitars, or, in this case down here, I got a bunch of vocals. There's 3 lead vocals, one, and then really accents, and then all your backup vocals. Like these backup vocals here, I put on their own VCA. So I can change just the backup vocals. Let's see, let me play that.
Hey, now you should know I won't lose my way. Your love always
if I need to move one of these vocals, let's say the one that's pan real hard right, and I can hear it in the headphones or in my monitors that this one needs to be changed, I can change it. And it does not affect the rest of them. If they were grouped, which I'll go ahead and group these. Let me just say group selected tracks. Now there's no way for me to select just one if I have to go back in and select one. So that is the difference, dissolve group. That's the difference between grouping and VCA faders. Again, if you're just doing two like the overheads, yeah, by all means, go ahead. You can go ahead and group them. But for multiple tracks, the VCA is the way to go because you can still go back in and tweak. I'm sorry if I keep, being redundant here, but there's going to be some people who watch this video who have absolutely no clue, who are just starting out, and I want to make sure that that it's clear for them. Those of you who are familiar with all this, then you might want to just pass by this video. But because somebody asked about this, I thought it'd be a good topic. Okay, now buses. I got all these drums here, and I got them treated. Got all my levels set to where I want them. Open that up, and everything's great. But then I want to treat them as a whole. Let's say I want to add a compressor on top of them to kind of add some glue, or if I want to. Put an FX, some reverb on the whole drum set, I'd put it here. If you want to put, say, okay, my drums sound really good. I want to go back and I want it to be a little brighter. I don't want to have to go back to each track and tweak every EQ. I would drop an EQ on here, and everything routed to this bus, you can EQ as a whole. So that's pretty simple. Now here's something else. For instance, like on here, this is what I use for my drum buses. It's a Nomad rack called Magma. It's kind of similar for those of you who are familiar with the Slate Digital virtual mix rack. This is like Nomad's version of it. And I got a few things on here that I like to use on my drum bus. I can solo this for a second and let you hear. Let me turn it off. It's what I use for a little bit of compression to glue it together, and it's got a exciter in there where I can really make things bright, and then I can build bottom end too. So let me turn it back on. So all the drums are routed to that bus, and here's how I did that. Again, I went through and I selected all my drums tracks, right-clicked on one of the tracks, and then I did add bus for selected channels. That way, all those tracks are routed to that bus. You can see up here, it says right here that they're going to the drum bus. Now on my bus, it's routed to the main, all the way down here. So I've got everything set here that I like, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not pushing my drum signal hard enough into the treatment that I did here. So that's something else you can do. So I can go ahead and, yes, this will make it overall louder, but this also will affect how hard you're pushing into your treatment on your bus. Or if you think you're pushing it too much, you bring it down. Okay, so now let's say we get that exactly how we want it. Put it back where it is. So then everything here is going to the bus and being treated, and then going to the main. Now, once you get down in here and you got all your other tracks and stuff all treated, and you're like, oh, I want my drums a little louder into the mains, but I don't want to push the faders all up using the VCA or grouping. Again, I prefer VCA. I don't want to turn it up here because it's going to change. It's going to affect how I'm hitting my treatment. So that's when I would go into my main bus, my drum bus, and then turn the drums up there, because then I'm not changing what's coming from my tracks into my treatment. So let's see, let's play this. So I could turn them up or down without affecting my treatment. So anyway, that's a little bit about how this works. One of these days I'll sit down and I'll, when I go ahead and mix a whole song, I'll do a video. They're typically 2 hours long, so I try not to make them a marathon. But it's so much information to talk about on a video when you're mixing a complete song. This one's not too bad. It's only got about 24, 25 tracks in it. Regardless, that's how grouping works. That's how VCAs work. And that's a little bit about how your bus works. Anyway, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. This is going to be on YouTube. So down in the, below in the description, you can ask some questions there. I'll also put a link to these stems. A lot of people say, hey, where'd you get this song? It's really cool. It's fun to mix. It's a great song. I do have a live stream where I mix this song. So there's a video of me mixing this song start to finish. I guess I could put a link there too. So if anybody wants to watch that and then download the stems, they can follow along and mix it. But I think that's about it. If you have questions, ask. I typically answer within, a few hours, if not right away. Again, I'm Keith Baker at Dusty Attic Studio, and thanks for tuning in.